Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much joining us today. I'm Makiko Tatsumi from Business Development Office of ATL. We hold the KGAP Plus special edition focusing on New York City today. KGAP is a startup acceleration program conducted by ATL. Prior to this year's regular program, as KGAP Plus special edition, we organize a program of event we organize a series of events with our global partners to think about the post-pandemic trends and encourage startups who challenge in difficult times. Okay, please look at the agenda on the screen. Firstly, Dr. Suzuki from ATL will deliver opening remarks and a presentation about the KGAP Plus special edition. Next, Mr. Akianguru and Ms. Hiro from ATL in New York City will talk about insight on coronavirus pandemic in New York City. Followed by that, we will have a Q&A and a discussion session. But you can send a question or comment anytime during the webinar through chat or Q&A window. Okay, this event is co-hosted by ATL. This event is co-hosted by ERA and JETRO. Yeah, ERA and ATL have been collaborated since 2017. Yeah, and JETRO supported us always. We appreciate their support. Okay, let's get started. Okay, I'd like to introduce Dr. Suzuki, who is Executive Vice President and the Head of Business Development Office ATL. Okay.
So, good morning for Japan and good evening for New York City. Thank you very much for joining this event today. And first of all, I'd like to thank Murat-san and Ina-san for supporting today's event. And I look forward to this event very much. And thank you very much. And I will talk about KGAP Plus Special Edition together with main program of KGAP Plus. I'm Suzuki of ATL and Keihan Research Complex. So let me start with basic data on COVID-19 in Japan. As of July 5th, 2 days ago, total confirmed cases is 19,500, and total deaths is a bit less than 1,000. And the Japanese government declared state of emergency in April and lifted it in May, for 1 month later. And we are requested to stay at home and avoid the 3 C's, closed spaces, crowded places, and close contact setting. It seems that the strategy worked quite well since the number of newly confirmed cases decreasing continuously. But we are now a little bit nervous because the number of newly confirmed cases are becoming larger and larger, especially in Tokyo area. But if you look at the number of critically ill or dead patients, the number is decreasing continuously in spite of increase in newly confirmed cases in less than 1 week. For critically ill patients, peaked at the end of April, the number of 300, more than 300, and now 3 days ago, only 33 are critically ill. The number of dead people also decreasing rapidly. At the peak of May 2nd, at the number of 34, and recently only 1 or 0 are dead. So Japanese government are now trying to balance COVID-19 prevention and economic activities. Of course, startups in this period has very tough time by losing opportunities in investments and collaborations. For instance, a big sales decrease in companies invested, and also partner companies are reviewing our business plans. So the POC, for instance, will be postponed or canceled. But this time is a good opportunities for finding new opportunities for working with partners and also to be invested. Because the changes are irreversible. So the response to the crisis are either coping, namely doing all things in new ways, or creating, namely doing new things. So anyway, you need to do something new. And I strongly believe to do something new in this era, global collaborations are essential. People say we need to live a new normal. What does it mean? For instance, human life and business will be changed, such that increasing in personal needs and the rise of contact-free society and economy, and from urban concentration to decentralized community, maybe New York and Tokyo are too much crowded, and acceleration of digital transformation. This results in also the changes in innovation, I believe. So innovation should create a societies for human. So the innovation will be not technology driven, but by social issue inspired. So the innovation will be created not in laboratories, but in real human life. The objective of KGAP Plus Special Edition is discuss and find ways to achieve innovations in human life or business in the in and after COVID-19 era by meeting with supporters, partners, investors, customers, and share and recognize correctly the current situation in human life and business under the COVID-19 pandemic. We started a KGAP Plus Special Edition as a series of web events with our global partners, as much explained earlier. The first event was held on June 11th with Israel Innovation Authority. And we just finished the second event with India, Confederation of Indian Industry last week. And now we have a third event with ELA in New York City, which will be followed by Israel and Canada, NRC, and Hong Kong. And we are also planning to have a similar meeting web event with maybe Barcelona Activa in Barcelona. On July 29th, we will have a KGAP Day that was also held in online. 10 selected startups will be qualified for the main program or KGAP Plus, batch 3, starting in July, together with 6 Japanese startups. ELA is one of our core partners, together with Barcelona Activa in Barcelona, Israel Innovation Authority in Israel, and National Research Council in Canada. And we started the collaboration by sending 10 startups, which was selected a monthly business pitching competition called KVEX, K-HANA Venture Championships, in which we select 1 or 2 startups each month from 5 startups And we had a kind of grand championship, in which startups gave a pitching in English. And we select totally 10 startups, 5 for each year, for fiscal year 2017 and the fiscal year 2018, and sent them to New York to ELA, and had a very tough 1-week boot camp. On Thursday nights, they had a pitching event with about 100 investors and angels in New York City. And we had a signed agreement on cooperation with ELA, Roundtable Accelerator, Entrepreneur Roundtable Accelerator, ELA, in March 2019, to confirm that we will continue our collaboration after finishing a research complex. And actually, we have now a collaboration event in spite of finishing research complex in the end of March. So the MOU works quite well. Also, ELA is our global expansion partner of KGAP Plus main program. For instance, batch 3 of KGAP Plus held last fiscal year, starting in September and finishing in December. 5 selected startups out of 11 startups are sent to New York, ELA, and spent 1 week to have, this time also, a very tough boot camp with Murat-san and Ina-san and other ELA partners. This is a picture taken in this March in New York City, ELA, and the startups are coming from Canada and Japan and Israel and Barcelona had a pitching training and the mentoring group or solo and workshops and demo day. Because in March, COVID-19 pandemic just started, also in New York. The demo day was a little bit held in a smaller scale than that of the 2 years ago. But still, startups are very satisfied with the boot camp. So they scored 4.6 out of 5.0. That's a very good number for us. So before finishing my talk, I'd like to thank you once again, Murat-san, Ina-san, for collaborating for the support of our event. And I believe the talk with Murat-san and Ina-san is very selective, not only for startups, but also companies or investors, because this is the right time to invest in startups. And I'm looking forward to listening your talk very much. Thank you very much today.
Thank you, Suzuki-san. Thank you very much. Yes. Okay. Yeah. For audience, if you have any question or comment, please feel free to send it through the chat or Q&A window you will see on the screen, or you can ask in Q&A session later. Okay, next, Mr. Murato Akianguru and Ms. Ina Hariro, our partner, will talk us about the insight on coronavirus pandemic in New York City and how startups can cope with these difficult times. Okay, Mr. Murato Akianguru, co-founder and the managing director, and Ms. Ina Hariro, global program manager, please.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Very nice to be here. And we are very, very proud to be partners with KGAP Research Complex, ATR, with Tatsumi-san and Suzuki-san, and everybody who's been our partners for a long time. So we are very excited to be here. Before we start, I would love to quickly tell you about my background, and then our global programs manager, Ina, maybe can briefly talk about her background, and we'll go into her presentation. We'll talk about like what we do, and then we'll talk about the current situation, and then we'll really focus on how to really manage, survive, and thrive in times of uncertainty. So we've been working with our companies for the past 4 months, and we have some learning, so we'd love to share with you. So my background is computer science. I have a master's degree, and I've worked in Silicon Valley, and then I've done tech startups. So for the past maybe like almost 28 years, I've been in technology and have seen quite a lot of different things. Obviously, the current situation is very unique. It's the first time I'm seeing such a thing. But at ERA, as I will talk about briefly, we've been investing in startups since 2011. We invested in around 213 companies, I think, so far. And we are the largest accelerator in New York City. And, so basically we've been investing in startups and working with our global partners for the past 9 years. Now I will have our global programs manager, Ina, introduce herself.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. So as Murat and Tatsumi-san mentioned, my name is Ina, and I currently work for ERA as Global Programs Manager. Originally, though, I'm from Cameroon and Madagascar. So those are two countries located in Central and Southeast Africa. And then I grew up in Cameroon and moved to Paris with my family when I was about 10 years old. And after that, I've spent some time in Europe. So I moved to Paris. So I lived in Paris in the UK before moving to New York. So my background is actually in international development. So I started working at the United Nations before actually transitioning into the technology world, where I've been working in the startup space. I worked quite a bit for a social impact accelerator, which is actually my background, social impact and tech. And then I started working at ERA about 3 years ago, where there was an opportunity to support global companies that were interested in expanding the business in the US, which was a very good fit for me, being very interested in global sort of opportunities. I'm very pleased to be here today, and I'm excited to hear your questions.
And also, before we start, I want to say hello to Kawara-san from SMBC. He lived with us in New York for 1 year, and he's just back in Tokyo. So, Kawara-san, hello. So, I will quickly switch to the presentation. So, as I mentioned, we'll briefly talk about ERA and ERA Global, like what are we, what do we do, how do we work with companies. Then we will talk about what's happening right now and what we think is going to happen after the COVID-19 period, post-COVID period. And then we'll talk about practical issues about how to really be a startup founder in these very, very uncertain times, which is very difficult. So our goal is to really just go through this presentation and then engage and answer some questions. And we just want to share knowledge with our great partners, KGAP Research Complex, ATR, and others. So ERA actually started as ER, which is Entrepreneurs Roundtable, in 2007 as a nonprofit. So we created events. We tried to create a network in New York City to connect investors and founders and lawyers and accountants, all these service providers, angels and VCs. Then in 2011, we launched ERA as a VC fund. We are a for-profit fund. We have LPs and we invest in startups. As I mentioned, we invested in around 213, I think, or 18 startups so far. And then as we work with startups, we realize that there's so much demand globally for startups to access the same kind of information. So we started ERA Global in 2015 to help global companies enter the US market, also go global. And then last year, we actually started the ERA Global Angel Investor Network. Our goal with the Angel Investor Network is to really activate capital in Japan, in Korea, and in other countries where angel investing is not a very common practice yet. We really believe that, for example, in Japan, if people start angel investing more, this is going to activate and enable many, many more startups to grow and become like large businesses. So, as I mentioned, ERA is a VC fund, and we are the largest tech accelerator in New York City. We invested in around 230 startups since 2011. So our portfolio is very engaged. We keep helping them even after our 4-month program, and we help them raise over $400 million. They're worth over $3 billion. We run 18 classes, and a portion of our portfolio have been acquired. They exited already. So we run 2 programs a year. They are each 4 months, and we get more than 1,000 applications for each program. And we have around 12 to 14 companies for each class. And then we actually invest $100,000 and take 8% equity stake in each company. And then after this, if the company raises more money, we actually invest. We can do follow-on investments. So in effect, we are a life cycle investor. So we not only do the initial $100,000 investment, but later we can invest under $1 million or $2 million more into each company. And I have to mention here that SMBC, we are very proud to have SMBC as our anchor LP. And again, Kawara-san is in the audience. So thank you for joining us today. So as a network, when we started ERA, we really tried to build a very strong network that can help startups. So we have 13 venture partners, 500 plus mentors, and we have, as I mentioned, 200 plus alumni companies, and we have around 600 ERA founders from these companies that actually come in and help other companies. And we have 50 plus corporate partners, including like Microsoft, IBM, Amazon, Google. So in effect, the circle on the left, you see the red circle, that helps the circle, the blue circles on the right. So whenever our companies need anything, any of our venture partners, lead mentors, corporate partners, or mentors or investors help our companies. So it's a very large network to help those startups. And then our mentors actually are really accomplished people. They are amazing. They come from amazing companies like these on the screen. So we have mentors from all these large corporations, which means that we can reach out to any of these large companies and engage them with our startups, including our global companies. So one thing that happened is in the past 9 years, we realized around more than 20 startups actually moved from different countries to the US to join the ERA program. Because as you've seen, like I'm from Turkey originally, and Ines from Cameroon and France. So we know that there are amazing entrepreneurs all over the world. And the global entrepreneurship movement is growing. So we realized that there are amazing companies all around the world, not just in Silicon Valley. And we really wanted to have these companies access all the information, expertise, and experience from our network. That's why we started ERA Global. So with ERA Global, we do not invest in the companies. We actually, we don't take any equity either, which means that later stage companies can also join ERA Global. And we basically provide all the insights and help and networking and marketing and sales support and all the knowledge required to enter the US market. And we do this in New York City at our office. So far, we've been active for 5 years. We've run 19 programs. And obviously, KGAP Research Complex and ATR are our amazing partners. We are very proud. We have 30 plus partners globally. And more than 80 companies, global companies, have gone through our program so far. Sorry, would you like to talk about this part?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Murat. Thank you. So hi again, everyone. So exactly as Murat mentioned, the goal of ERA Global was to really try and support companies that came from all over the world that were interested in the US market. So we decided to create programs that were really geared to the type of challenges that they had. And so, we started ERA Global in 2015, and we did a lot of different programs. And we started thinking, what kind of things we can build for those companies, and that's how we started. We built out 3 different programs. We started out with a first program called Explore. So that's a 1-week program, and the whole idea was to take companies. For example, we've done that work with ATR, our great partner, and Kehana. The companies that were interested in expanding into the US market, but they weren't necessarily certain about how to make that move. And so they wanted to sort of like have a little bit of a diagnostic around, how to access the US, what it takes to expand into the US market. So the goal of the 1 week is to be a very intensive 1-week boot camp to understand how to do business in the US, what investors expect, what customers expect you to do. And that could be a very good way for companies when they're finally ready to expand into the US market to actually, be prepared for that. So that's sort of like how the 1 week sort of fit in that model. But really, the flagship program that we do is a 12-week program. So that's really the longer program where companies that are already ready for the US market can actually come through our program and really think about expanding, which is why it's called Scale. And so through that program, it's very intensive. They meet tons of mentors. There are different workshops to really help them readjust their entire go-to-market strategy. So we effectively take them with whatever they've been doing, be it in Japan, Israel, Canada, and we really look into what is that they've been doing successfully in their home market, and how can they completely localize that for the US. So that's why it's a longer program, and it's very, very intensive in that sense. So obviously, we've been running those programs in New York, in our offices. Companies have been very, very excited and very happy about that. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and we sort of had this experience back in March when we actually were finishing running the program with Kehana, which Suzuki-san mentioned at the beginning of the talk, and we thought to ourselves, what's going to happen for ERA Global? How are we going to be adjusting for that, in this new normal? And so, when we were thinking about ERA Global, we knew that we do a few things very well. So we know how to take companies, we know how to help them grow into the US market. We know that we need to continue to support them, even in that new pandemic world in which we live. So we decided to bring our knowledge to companies all over the world. And that's how we decided to run a 6-week program completely online called Insight. So Insight was built as a way to give insight and really an educational understanding of the US market for companies. So we thought to ourselves, how can we continue to support those great companies that know that they want to be in the US now, but they can't be in the US, but down the line they will be. So how can we prepare them for that next steps? So Insights was 6 weeks. So every single week we tackled a specific topic. So that could be something around how to do business to business sales in the US, how to manage in the investment process, how to raise fund in the US, how to conduct even business in America, how to pitch. And so we had multiple different mentors that met with them, and we run different sessions with them, and also some one-on-ones. And we're very excited because we didn't really know what to expect from that program. But at the end of the 6 weeks, which actually happened about 2.5 weeks ago, we were really excited about the result that we saw. So in those 6 weeks, we accelerated 8 companies from 4 different continents. So we had companies from Korea, Spain, Senegal, and Brazil. So all over the world. So, multiple different time zones, a very diverse and very rich experience for all of them. All of them successfully developed a US investor pitch and sales collateral. So what that means is that when those companies are ready to come to the US, let's say 4 months from now, they all have an investor pitch, so they can go and talk to investors if they want to. And they also have sales materials. All of them were able to also refine their US go-to-market strategy. And now they have a very clear plan. They know which industry they need to tackle. They know which kind of key performance indicators they need to hit for the US, because those metrics will change based on where they're from. And that's very important. They know which milestones they need to hit. And one thing that we're very, very excited is the fact that two of the companies that were part of the program actually closed major deals with very large companies in North America. So while we can't fully take credit of all those successes, they did tell us that the program really helped them accelerate that process for them. So they were able to really manage the sales process. They were able to manage, the discussion with those people, with those different customers. And in fact, because of that and because of the program, and despite coronavirus, 3 of the companies have finalized their plans to be in the US by Q4. So regardless of what will happen, those companies know that they want to be in the US because they already have customers that they've been building that pipeline. So overall, it's been a great program, and we're very excited about what's next.
Great. Thank you, Ina. Actually, this is really very important for us because this was our first ever online program, and we had no idea how the outcome was going to be. So I think Ina ran a great program. So we are very excited to have had like amazing results. But I want to have a sidebar here. My next slide is special. I think most of our audience tonight is from Japan. So I want to congratulate Japan and Tokyo for being, for the first time, in the top 15 of world's top startup ecosystems. We think this is a major milestone. We are very excited, and obviously, we've been seeing this coming for some time. As you can see, in terms of performance and funding, Japanese startups are very strong. Also, talent is very strong, but the knowledge is the strongest one. If you look at Tokyo, and knowledge is not like 9 out of 10. I think what Japan is lacking is what we are working on right now, which is connectedness and market reach. So KGAP Plus and Suzuki-san and Tatsumi-san and the whole team is working on these components. So we are absolutely sure that Tokyo will go up in the coming years in those rankings, but congratulations to Japan again for becoming one of the top global startup centers. So now I will just touch on 2019. If you can remember the good times where you could go to a bar, where you could go to games like sports games and in crowded arenas, the startup economy in 2019 was a $3 trillion entity. So $3 trillion actually is a GDP equal to United Kingdom, India, and France. So it's like a G7 economy, which is a major economy size. And if you look at the 10 largest companies in the world, 7 of these were technology companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google, Facebook. And then $300 billion have been invested in startups from VCs, which is, again, has been increasing for years. And then what we've seen, the other thing in 2019 was 74% of all startup activity was really in the top 10 global cities. So we are seeing this change slowly, and I think it's becoming more homogeneous around the world. But then, as we all know, what happened is COVID hit. A pandemic for the first time, nobody was expecting, nobody thought this would happen, even though there were a lot of warning signs. So we are calling this as the Great Reset. The World Economic Forum has this new movement. They see this as a great opportunity to really get rid of all the old mechanisms that were not working and to build brand new ones. So first, believe me, this is the most depressing slides on this presentation. After this, things will get better. But after coronavirus hit and everything locked down all around the world, 2/3 of all startups laid off employees. Average startup laid off 1/3 of their staff to cut their burn and survive longer. And then 4 out of 10 startups actually had 3 months or less runway, which was very depressing. But the 2 main problems were really the major drop in consumer demands and VC investments. So now let's look into these. So here you can see different sectors. Maybe it's too blurry, it's not too visible, but you will have access to this PDF so you can look at it. Really, consumer demand dropped drastically. The last row you see there is travel. Obviously, travel went down 90% or more. About 72% of startups saw their revenue drop. And then obviously like 40% of companies saw their revenues drop 40% or more. And only a tiny percent, 12% of startups saw really growth because, they were selling like telemedicine solutions, or they were in the right product space when the COVID crisis hit. And VC investments obviously dropped, and we are still seeing the final results, but China, it dropped by 50%. Globally, it dropped by 20%. And obviously, one of the worst things that happened was if you had a term sheet in March before the lockdown happened, 75% of all fundraising processes have been disrupted. 54% was just delayed, but 18% was just canceled. So what it means is VCs actually signed term sheets, and then they canceled the term sheets in 18% of cases. It's very depressing. It's not good. But we see this as a major, major opportunity. So first of all, the current situation is really pushed everybody to become more digital. So technology products are really becoming the solutions, which means tech startups will be a major part of the recovery. So again, we see major change as a major opportunity. So we have a prediction, and in 10 years, please email us if we are wrong or right. But when we look back in 2030, we think we will see that 2020 and 2021 will be the best times for investing in startups ever. Currently, I don't know if you know, but the best startup investments have been made right after the 2008 financial crisis. 50 unicorns started in 2008 or 2009. Uber, Dropbox, Pinterest, Spotify, all these companies, they started right after the financial crisis. So, and these are like, especially Uber is one of the like best startup investments ever made. So our thinking is this: you are looking at the current situation and you are seeing lots of problems. We look at the historical situation and we see a huge opportunity. These are the best times to work with startups, to be in a startup, to invest in startups. And obviously we really encourage governments to increase support for startups, because most of the jobs globally in any economy are always created by startups, by small businesses. So just high level, we see a lot of opportunities, but digitization has really become very, very fast. For example, telemedicine in the US, there were lots of laws that were limiting telemedicine. Those laws are gone. They changed. We were thinking it would take 5 to 10 years, but it took around 1 month in March to get rid of limiting laws around telemedicine. So when digitalization speeds up, it's really the startups that can benefit from this. Right now, all of us are looking at Zoom screens. Remote work and meetings are really, really huge areas. Remote learning is huge. Actually, as ERA, our summer class, which is starting next week, we invested in some medical device company, we invested in a remote learning company, we invested in remote work company. So we are really very, very excited about these areas. And obviously, as things are moving online and people are working from home, there's going to be more demand for bandwidth and 5G. And obviously, streaming entertainment, I think, is going to be more and more interesting. Also, obviously, e-commerce, people cannot really go around. They don't want to go to crowded stores. Like you can click and it comes to you. Online grocery shopping has increased quite a lot. We have some data on these slides. And then last mile distribution centers, I think, and logistics is going to get even more robust after this. And supply chain resilience is going to be a major, major issue. So actually in this situation, we are seeing a reverse globalization. we are seeing that many companies will try to keep their supply chains close by. But we see this in the next 10 years, not quickly. And then obviously cloud kitchens, which are dark kitchens, which are virtual kitchens. We see a major growth in cloud kitchens because most people will really be ordering food instead of going to a restaurant in the near future. So now let's talk about if you are running a startup, what do you do? There is less consumer demand, there is less funding, and which is increasing. So what do you do? So it's really difficult because there's continuous turbulence. So how can you build a company? Here's what we've seen in the past 4 months from 200 plus ERA companies about what to do. First of all, be very transparent with your existing investors and with your team, which means if there are bad news, if you lose a customer, if things are not going well, communicate. Be transparent. Ask for help. Plus, with your customers, like B2B companies, definitely engage with your customers. Listen to them. Listen to what they're suffering from, what they're looking for, what are the pain points. And as I will talk about later, very immediately, change things according to the current situation. So really communicate with your shareholders, with your team, be transparent, and don't try to hide bad news or bad things because that's not going to solve anything. Actually, we really recommend a monthly investor update and probably like a weekly team meeting where you can talk about everything very openly. So the next really important thing is you really need to change your mindset. You have to look at every opportunistic pivot, change you can make for your product. We have companies that were teaching kids they were teaching them tennis, basketball, computers after school, in person, at the schoolyard. Now, our company actually pivoted to be a virtual class company. They did this pivot in a couple of weeks. They built the whole product and they released this product. And I just talked to them. They are doing amazingly well. Their revenue increased even from before. So you really need to be very open-minded and see if you can change what you're doing to solve an existing problem. Second, definitely cash is king because when you're out of cash, you're dead. Cut your burn. Cut burn means like you have to fire people, you have to furlough people. Furlough means you stop paying people, but they're still on your payroll and they're just like on pause. You need to extend your runway. Ideally, your runway should be 18 months, but I think at this situation, like a 12-month runway is okay. So again, this is very opportunistic, but depending on talent, you need to lay off people or you need to furlough them. Just think about if you can win these people back if things start going well again. But these are very tough decisions and it's not easy as a startup to let go of people, but you have to do it to survive. And we'll talk about the government grants as well. So one thing is you need cash. You need to run your business, you need to pay people, you need to manufacture, keep manufacturing. So there are government grants, there are loans, you need to apply for all of these. So getting a new bank loan will be difficult in these times, but try to pull all of your credit line from a bank if you already have it. If you have a credit line with a bank, try to pull all of it like now, today. And then obviously look at all the stimulus packages, all the available grants, all the available loans. In the US, there was the famous PPP. Most of our companies got that stimulus package and they survived. So you need to do everything you can to get cash, to cut burn, and to really survive. Because, surviving is the main thing. And on the fundraising side, really you need to reposition maybe what you're doing, fit the current situation. right now we are seeing angel investors and VCs in the US. They are very actively investing into very opportunistic startups. Opportunistic startup means, in this case, startups that are solving a major problem like telemedicine or remote education, remote learning, or anything that has to do with the current problem. Like if they're working on a COVID vaccine, obviously you can raise money. So investors are being very, very opportunistic right now. You can also raise venture debt if you have revenue and already funding, which is difficult. Crowdfunding is another source. And invoice factoring is like when you have invoices about the person is not paying you. So you can go to a credit facility and they can give you a portion of the invoice's worth, and then they go and try to collect the invoice. So in effect, like consider anything and everything as a startup founder. So Bill Gates famously disappears twice a year for 7 days. He goes to a cabin where there's nobody. Someone just gives him meals, like 2 meals a day apparently. And then he only thinks. I highly recommend you take some time off with your team. You reflect, you analyze, you brainstorm, you write down lots of ideas, and then you create a 12-month operating plan about what to do, how to survive. Sometimes like changing your customers or creating a new product. You need to take some time off and plan this. I think it's the best way, we think, for you to really be ready for the next year. So again, we are very excited about this year and next year and the near future. These will be the best times ever for startup investing. And we would love to talk to you if you have a startup, and we would love to invest in you. We would love to help you with KGAP Plus and KGAP Research Complex and Suzuki-san and Tatsumi-san and everybody in our partner network. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Murata-san and Ina. Yeah, it's a very comprehensive, and your talk encourages us. I think everybody motivated very much in these difficult times. Yeah, as you see, yeah, some people are saying the question, and thank you very much, Ina, you are answering. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, now we will start a question and answer session. Yeah, discussion session. Yeah. Does anybody have a question, comment? You can raise a hand on your screen, and we will unmute your mic. Yeah. Or Suzuki-san, maybe. Yeah, you have some feedback or comment. Please.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzuki-san. Thank you very much.
Very instructive talk.
Thank you.
And I just want to know how often are you working at the office, and what kind of change has happened in New York for business and daily life?
Absolutely, that's a great question. As you know, New York locked down completely. So the week after you left, we closed our office, and the whole ERA team and all of ERA companies, we've been working from home for the past 16 weeks. For the past 4 months, the office was closed. Everybody's working from home. But I'm so impressed that people are working harder, and mentors are mentoring over video calls, and also investors are investing over video calls. So everybody adjusted really to the current situation. We are very, very impressed.
So how do you expect acceleration program in new normal? Will you do acceleration whole online or partly online? And a combination and offline?
It's a great question. So actually, the whole ERA team, in March, we moved our accelerated program online. And then I was personally, I had very low expectations. I was very not happy because I thought it's difficult to mentor over a video call, or I thought, how can you raise money over a video call? But then in the past 4 months, what we've seen is we had a demo day online on YouTube, and we had 13 companies that pitched at our demo day, and all of the companies got many investor meetings. And actually 9 of them or 10 of them have raised money already. So everybody's adjusting to the current situation. And then obviously, talked about this. We thought that since companies cannot travel to New York City, let's run a virtual program for global. And that became a very successful program. The company is really engaged, and even though they were in Brazil and in Korea and other countries, they got new customers in the US. They learned a lot. So I'm right now very, very optimistic. And I think being in person is powerful. Obviously, it's a good thing. But at the same time, at the moment, since everybody's adjusting, I think, we can run a very effective accelerated program online. Hopefully not forever, but from now on also we are thinking it's going to be a hybrid solution, because our investor demo day used to be in person, but now we are seeing the benefits of the online demo day with European, Japanese, Korean, and West Coast investors participating. So yeah, we are very excited. Ina, would you like to add something on our approach? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, you mentioned everything. On the ERA Global side, I will say that, the Insight program that we just completed, the success that we saw was really a validation that online programs can work. And we saw that, at least for the foreseeable future, which might be the next 3 to 4 months, we will be running global programs online. We would love for them to be back in person, because nothing really can replace the in-person interaction. But at least I think the online will really be working for the time being. And if anything, I think that it really forces us to really exaggerate the spirit of community that we have. So we are a bit more mindful and careful about the way that we want to interact with companies. And I think that it will be very beneficial for companies on the long run, those type of virtual programs. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Ito-san. Yeah, we will unmute Ito-san. Ito-san. Ito-san, can you share your question to everybody by yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I was wondering, Murata-san, you mentioned that investors are investing in certain companies opportunistically. I wonder how their valuation has been in the past few months, considering there's less activities among investors. Do you see drops in valuation? If so, what are the percentage of drops?
That's a great question. So here's what we are seeing. The companies that are the best matches for the current problem situation, their valuation is actually increasing. We have a telemedicine company. They doubled their valuation in the past 2 months, and they raised money from very large investors. But then other companies that are not really great match for the current situation, but they are good businesses, we are not seeing major drops in valuation. We are seeing maybe 10 to 20% drops in valuation. But a good business currently is seen as still they will be building a great business, and this current situation will pass. So one thing we are hearing is in California, the usual very, very high valuations are decreasing quite a lot. But New York City was already very reasonable, so we are not seeing major drops in valuation on the East Coast.
That's encouraging. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Ito-san. Okay, next we will have a question from Kawahara-san. Kawahara-san, we will unmute you, so please share your question to everybody. Yeah, Murata-san and Ina want to see you.
Yes,
Hello,
please.
hi. This is Kawahara and Murata and Ina. So nice to see you again.
Kawahara-san, nice to see you. Thank you for joining today.
I'm so excited to talk with you too.
Thank you. Me too, yes.
And the presentation was really good, so encouraging and so insightful. So my question here is that what is the benefit of working remotely for your team and the startup as well? And what is the problem that should be solved? So because you definitely overcame this difficult situation by showing the successful demo day. But I think there are a lot of things that the problem still from the point of working from home or working remotely. So I want to just know that.
Thank you. Yes, that's a great question. So actually, personally for me, at ERA office before COVID, at a very, very busy day, I used to have 8 meetings a day maximum, or 9, like maximum. Now I go through my days between 12 to 16 meetings every day. So it's definitely much more effective. You have meetings with people, and when you stop talking about the subject, you can hang up. Otherwise, if people travel to visit you, you cannot just end the meeting abruptly. So I think things are much more effective. But again, I really want to emphasize we were able to do a great job because we have great people on our team. So if you have people that really need supervision to work properly, and at home they're not working properly, then there's something wrong with the team. So I really think for like startups, you have already probably good people, and this will be a problem for large corporations, obviously. So many new solutions will be created to make sure that people feel presence of their coworkers. So we are seeing some solutions, like there's a solution where a video and audio connection is on all the time between team members. So it's almost like you're sitting in the same office. But so again, like I'm looking at it very optimistically. Would you like to add opinions?
Yeah, I'm also looking, at it very optimistically. And so I think it is a very interesting question because personally, I've seen my productivity doubling. I've always felt like I was someone that I can execute, but now that, we're slashing the commute, it's very, very effective to get things done. And I can focus also very well. So I think that it's very helpful. Now, of course, not everyone has that kind of thoughts to have this type of setup, the setup that I have. Some people might have kids at home, and so focusing might be a bit different. And so to Murat's point, I also think that we'll see multiple different type of solutions around, homeschooling. So what would that look like for people that need to work? And things around, creating that community feeling, I think will also be very important. Now, what I would like to say as well is that online is not replacing in person. It's just the situation in which we are. But I think when we are ready to get back to normal, I think that people will be very eager to get back into that. But knowing that there is this option of also being at home and we can get work done. So in a way, working from home, I think will be a bit more democratized. So more people might be willing to work from home, have this option. But I think that, when things reopen, we'll see people being very eager about knowing that they can get back to the office.
I mean, having said all that, obviously, I think I really miss being at the office and seeing people and talking to people in person. I really miss that, even though
I
it's
miss
more.
that too.
Yes.
So actually, that's the point of my question. So I missed that the moment in ERA so much, but I knew you were making most of the situation to improve and to accelerate your business. So that answer was something I expected, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kawahara-san. Okay, next we will have a question from Nick Seo. Seo-san, please.
Hi, Murat-san. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very impressive. So I have a question about your portfolio companies. Some of them may be bringing any concrete solution to survive in the new normal. So some of the audience must be may be interesting or curious about the portfolio company. What kind of solution can be directly provided under this harsh environment?
Sure. So thank you. It's a great question. So we actually have quite a lot, many. So let me quickly touch base on some of them. So we have a company that created a marketplace for PPP equipment and masks. It's called Leverage. Before COVID, they really focused on procurement for large corporations. But when COVID hit, and in the US, people really couldn't get access to all the PPP equipment and masks, our company saw an opportunity. They lined up all the suppliers, and they lined up on the demand side on the US, all the buyers like hospitals and like cities. And now they are doing great. And they really, it's almost the same business, but they just like tweaked a little bit.
That's very impressive. Some change of the supply chain of e-commerce. So from
exactly. And then, as I mentioned, we have a telemedicine company for retirement homes, nursing homes. It's called Tambo Health. They let specialists, doctors, examine older patients in retirement homes. And they were doing great. But when COVID hit, obviously, it really affected nursing homes. So our company signed up many new customers because they already had a great product that they built last year. So that was very, that was a great coincidence of like being at the right place at the right time.
Okay, thank you very much for a very good example. Very informative for the business in Japan as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again in New York.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Everybody want to go abroad or New York. Yeah.
Yes, please come to New York.
Yeah, I just returned from California, so I'm staying at home for 15 days in Japan. Anyway.
Great.
Okay. Stay safe.
Thank you.
From Mao-san, I'm not sure she can can be on screen or not. So please read it. I will read her question. You said 2020 and 2021 will be the best time for the investing. On the other hand, could you tell me when the worst time will be for startups? The later half of 2020?
No. Okay. I mean, what we meant really is right now, when you look at all startup investment across historically all the years, 2008 and 9 and 2010, they created the biggest returns for VCs. So what we mean is right now, VCs investing in startups actively, they will find some very good companies. And those companies, because everything is changing, they will grow very quickly, they've become very large. So these investments will return very high numbers, which means like right now is like one of the best times historically when you look at the patterns to invest in startups because of all the layoffs in the US, very qualified, smart, skilled people are available to work in startups, just like 2008. And then right now, like rent is very cheap in New York City for commercial real estate. That's going to help. And then investors are being very opportunistic. So if you have a good company, you can raise a lot of money. We are seeing that with our companies. So when we look at all these factors, and then also, we are going to start running our summer program next week. So we are investing in amazing companies, 11 new companies, and we are very excited about them. So we think the investments we are making right now in 10 years, they will have the highest returns historically of any time, which means that this is a great time to invest in startups, and this is not a great time to keep your money in gold or cash.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Yeah. If Anderson has a additional comment, please send a message to chat or question. Okay, next we will have another question to Murata-san. Does ERA plan to tie up with other innovation labs worldwide?
I mean, who is asking? Do they want to partner with us, or?
I don't know.
Sure,
yeah.
but we are always open. Obviously, we have great partnerships. But one of our first global partners was, ATR and KGAP Research Complex. So we are very lucky. So we love working together, and we are always open to new partnerships. Obviously.
If I may jump in, yes, 100%. So whoever asked the question, if you are a potential partner, we always love to talk to anyone, but more ultimately, our mission and vision at ERA is to really support companies all over the world. So if you are a startup that is maybe in a country that you see we don't have any partnership in, that doesn't mean that you should not consider. So we're very open to talk to companies and things like that. So,
Yeah. And by the way, I think most people know this, but I lived in Japan from 2003 to 2005, and I speak very bad Japanese, and my wife is Japanese, and SMBC is our anchor LP, and we have amazing Japanese partners. We have other Japanese LPs. So we are also very, very interested in Japanese startups as well. So as you know, as everyone knows.
We have another question or comment. Okay, Suzuki-san is coming. Wait a minute.
It's on mute, I think. Okay, right.
Okay, maybe the last question for this event. Sure. As far as I know, no Japanese startups has been accepted for your main program up to now.
Not yet, yes.
What made Japanese startups not accepted for a main program? What kind of revisions are needed for Japanese startups to be accepted? Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. So one thing is, like, we haven't accepted companies from many countries in the world, not just Japan. Like I'm from Turkey, but after 9 years, we had our first Turkish company last summer for the first time ever. So with Japan, as we just talked about, I think Japan is really growing. It's now number 15 globally as a top startup center. And we are really very excited about Japanese startups because in the past, as you know, like in Japan, startups really aim for a local IPO. And then when they hit like $1 or $2 million in revenue, they go for a $15 to $30 million IPO. And that's why they really only target the Japanese market. But we are seeing changes as together, obviously, with KGAP Plus, we would love Japanese startups to really target global audiences, global markets, and to become global startups with global solutions. And then along with that, obviously, like, learning more about global customers and learning more about US market and US market insights. I think we are very excited. And obviously in Japan, the level of education is very high. Talent is very, very advanced. So we looked at some deep technology companies in the past and we came pretty close, but we are really looking for a Japanese company that can come to US with their product that we can really help. So actually, we are working with JETRO as well, and there are some great Japanese companies. Hopefully, we'll be investing in a Japanese company soon with your help.
Yeah, I hope to. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Time is up. So we are finishing the event. Yes, we will keep going. So everybody needed to keep going together. Okay, the series of events will continue. We will hold a pitch event with Israel startups tomorrow. And another event focusing on Canada will be held day after tomorrow. So please join us again. A link to registration will be shown in the thank you email you will receive shortly. So Murata-san, Ine, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure to collaborate online. Yeah, so next time in person. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone.
Yeah,
thank
stay
you.
safe and healthy.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Bye bye.